Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Dorm Room Ventures. Today I'm joined by a very insightful guest, Carol Moxam, who is a holistic leadership expert, internationally acclaimed speaker, and founder of the Best Self Experience. With over 30 years of experience coaching high-performing entrepreneurs, executives, and changemakers, Carol has made it her mission to help people lead with clarity, intention, and impact, all without losing themselves in the process. From earning the title of Mentor of the Year to being recognized as a legacy leader, Carol has worked across industries to help professionals and aspiring leaders alike communicate with purpose, show up as their most authentic selves, and create success that's sustainable and deeply personal. But here's the big question. What does real leadership actually look like for students and young entrepreneurs? And how do you build it before the title or the corner office? Well, you guys are all in luck because today Carol is here to break down how to set yourself up as a successful leader even in college, how to stand out without burning out, and why true leadership starts from within. All right, well, I hope you all enjoy. Carol, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you. It's good to be here to talk about an important topic.
It is really important.
Sure.
Yeah, it's extremely important. I think, we were just having this discussion before the show, but it's so important that students realize that leadership is more, hence the title, it's more than a title alone. It's not just something you put on your resume. It's more about how you work with others, but also how you become your best self. And we'll dive more into that later, but it's just such an interesting discussion. But before going into that, I want you to tell us a little bit about yourself. So tell us a little bit about your work and what led you to focus on holistic leadership and helping people craft their best self.
Okay, so it is really a journey of a lifetime, like my lifetime. So over 4 decades. I would say that in my 20s, if I take you through 4 decades of starting a business in your 20s, it's very exciting, it's very empowering, and you're very driven. So to go through from my 20s to my 30s to understanding that there are certain amounts of attention to business that is required, but then there's also family and relationships. Then you go into your 40s and you're like, wait a second, there's now more things to learn about my business leadership and having teams around me and not working solo, having adjusting my mindset myself. That I had to really spend a decade inside of a new realm of leadership, which is called transformational leadership, which would tremendously impact my view of life and leadership forever. So that's when I really understood about lifestyle. Then to go into another decade and discover how do I incorporate three of my favorite lessons, which were self mastery, taking care of myself from the inside out and reflecting that in my business, team mastery, allowing my business to thrive with team and teamwork in any situation, to my favorite one, which is so important for students today because you're in a community, which is community, as to how to grow and build a community such that the community of like-minded leaders can be together, share together, and grow together. Because especially as entrepreneurs, the stronger we are as a body of entrepreneurs, we all can contribute and accelerate success. So that's what I would say is that, these 4 decades have taught me to bring one journey, which is the holistic leadership, into entrepreneurs who are often working solo and working many, many, many hours. Because I did that. That was my first decade.
Mm-hmm. Completely agree. I think, you know, even now it's such a big kind of stigma of hustle culture. And we're going to dive more into this later, but just the stereotypical idea of seeing someone alone in their room at night, working hard on whatever they're trying to do, whether that be a business or a project, whatever it might be. And it really kind of leaves the importance of collaboration and community, it leaves it out of the equation. And I think it's just so important that students today kind of shape their thinking in a way that they can really put the emphasis on, I need a community that can be just as excited for this thing as me. So I think it's just so important.
Wouldn't it be cool? Because you see, I'm tuning in, I'm well trained in communication. And hearing, I see it all over TikTok, the side hustle,
Yeah.
the side hustle, and I'm like, where did that come in? Where did we get the language, right? What if in the next decade the language shift to the holistic hustle of
Mm.
entrepreneurship?
Can you dive more into that?
Yeah, because when you take on your full spectrum of all three of those domains, you now have a holistic approach. You first have to identify yourself. Now, often self comes much later in life. Much later, you go through tough challenges, really tough challenges. The only time you change is when you hit a wall, like face on. You're like, whoa, we got to change this. It's not working. So the holistic is a whole life approach. So the basic of cognitive leadership would be like, how much time do I invest in my career? How much time do I invest in my relationships? And how much time do I invest in my health? So if you take all three domains as a whole self and yourself within your business, relationships, and your health, and you evaluate how much time you're investing in each of those domains, and it will alter at different times of life, you get an idea of where your investment of your most precious asset time is going, and you ask yourself the question, okay, wait a minute, if I'm putting 80% of my life into my business and only that leaves me 20% for my health and relationships, would you think there would be an imbalance there?
100%.
There is. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's, when I saw it visually for myself, that, yeah, I was putting 80, and I probably could even push that up to 85 and left 15 for relationships and health. So the goal of holistic leadership is to keep being aware ongoingly and newly, like every single quarter, every year, how am I developing myself? Where's my focus going? Have I forgotten about my friends? Am I ignoring my very important relationships, or am I not spending enough time in the gym? Like, I would put the health first alongside relationships, and career third now. And it was always career, then relationships, and health second, next second and third.
That yeah, that resonates a lot with me personally as well. When I was working on, my first ever startup back in the beginning of my time here at college, I put everything else aside. Family, friends, sometimes even school itself. And, you know, not only did it have a negative effect during that time that I was working on the startup, but more than that, even when I finished the startup, you know, I realized that there was so much growth that was impeded because I didn't think holistically, like you said. And given that, I have no doubt that there are so many students in that same space that I was. So could you go a little bit more into all these three types of domains and how they play with each other?
Okay. There's two things I don't want to forget: a balance of well-being and performance, how this ties in. So the three domains are basically our makeup of our time in life. So if you look at the most successful leaders in the world, no matter who we are in the world, we all have the same 24 hours. So the best thing I can say is that time is your budget, your lifetime budget. Yes, you went through an experience where you put more into your work than anything else, and you realize there was an impact on that. So that would be an integrity out of yourself, because yourself requires all these domains working to have you working. So now I'll tie it into the performance and well-being. And the only way, I can talk about it, but you have, by experiencing is your best experience of all life. That's actually your best teacher in life. And I was training in team management and leadership for a decade. I was leading team in Toronto, a team of 40 CEOs, and we were heading down for our North America team management leadership weekend. And before we go to the weekend, we have a checklist that's about 15 pages long of well being, to make sure that while we leave our home and our country and our families, that we have structures in place for all of our people that are important. We also have structures to make sure that we take care of ourselves and our health. And even when we arrive at the conference, the same as that. Now, our responsibility as leaders was to complete all of those, and make sure we're leaving with integrity to head down to the conference. That particular weekend, I'll never forget, because it was life changing. 26 leaders across North America sitting around the table with global leaders, communication training leaders, and they looked at our integrity on our well-being reports, and they said, like, what's up with that? Because we were operating at a level of about 30% on our well-being, making sure that our life, it was looked after. And the global leader, Jorge said to us, like, yeah, what are you doing that's causing this? Like, why are we not paying attention to ourselves while we're serving all these leaders? Now, here's the thing. He didn't blame us. This is the leadership. He didn't blame us. He was actually looking in his leadership. How did he cause this? Did his global leadership body cause this such that our leadership body didn't have integrity? Then guess what? Now the next level, our actual participants in the leadership body now are following our pattern.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's amazing.
You might as well get a domino of leader. You're not taking care of yourself. You're not taking care of yourself. You're not taking care of yourself. Where did we all miss? And now the thing is, there was nothing wrong. That's that's a key distinction in leadership. It's now only where do we find the gap and learn from this. Now here's where we went. We all go off out in the Saturday all day training, and we're now putting up the scoreboard for the quarter, all our performances. How did we perform? What are the results? Okay. So now we look at the whole quarter and we say, okay, this was out just for preparation for the weekend. What do you think was happening during the quarter? Where was our attention? Was it on the results that we were committed to, or were we somewhere else? Like, what were we doing? Because it actually mirrors. So, this is the part about self mastery. Our performance internally in taking care of our well being actually mirrors the performance of the company.
Interesting.
And to see that wave, like truly reflected with numbers when you get into statistics on the board and you're going, whoa. And if it wasn't enough that we had the meeting to say, out of integrity on well being, leadership's great. We're all leaders. We had that part figured out. Um, to show up in the room and see the results on the scoreboard, which were down over, I can't remember the exact percentage, but they were down. Let's just say it was one of our worst quarters. And then on top of that, on that particular weekend, in the company's entire history, they had more people go to the hospital on that particular weekend than they had in previous years. So, meaning you're at a conference and somebody deals with, like, it could be an asthma attack or it could, anxiety. There's all the things people are dealing with in life, or they've got a family emergency back home. Life just continues to happen every day to all of us. Your awareness to it. So again, I'm going to expand on self mastery is your awareness to the lessons. This is when you become aware that these things are teaching you. This is for you to notice the shift in the how am I aligning with my results in my company with my taking care of myself. And then I also now, if you tie that to team mastery, while I'm taking care of myself, I recently had foot surgery. I just continue operating my business. You don't see my feet on screen. I had a team around my life. So I have a life team to support my needs around food, water, taking care of every need that I needed while I could be in my business. So that's a life team. Then I have a team in my business that supports me inside of, like, that's your C-level executives who support me, who manage the operations of the business, but they're in communication. So the three values in business are sharing, communication, and collaboration. So see, there's always like this flow that they're all moving into different areas. When I said I didn't learn it overnight, no, I had no idea in my 20s what I was doing. I was doing business. That's what I knew how to do. What I had to learn in my lifetime was that my business is me.
Very well said. Your business is you. And diving into that overall idea that you mentioned, the importance of well-being, from my experience here, being here on the front lines of college, seeing college founders and these sort of things, you know, you see the idea of burnout kind of in many ways glorified in this day and age. Burnout is a metric. Well, this is what many people think. Burnout is a metric for whether you worked hard or not. What are your thoughts on that? And, how bad could burnout be for not only your well being, but also, for your ability to lead in a holistic way?
Okay. So first of all, burnout to interpret again, interpretation of the word burnout. Okay. It is up to us to give it the meaning. So I actually pause before because I'm like, burnout is teaching us something, but you know, whew, burnout comes in many different forms. So for me, for example, burnout was, um, given in many ways and warnings to me, but I wasn't seeing the warning signs. And then there was this one day that I started to get tingling in my arms, and I was like, "Oh, what's that?" And I told my friend, and she's like, "I think you should call a nurse." And I'm like, "Why?" And she's like, "Well, just call and ask them about it." I saw your eyes. I called the nurse and I said, "Can you tell me what this is?" And she's like, "We'll send you an ambulance." And I'm like, "What do you mean you're going to send me an ambulance?" And I go, "No, the hospital's right across the street from me. I'll just walk over there." "No, we're sending you an ambulance." Then she said it the second time, and I said, "What?" Well, I said, "I just told you, I live right across from the hospital. I can walk there." She said, "No, we're sending you an ambulance." And then a complete shift happened in my body. And it was like, wait a minute, somebody here knows something I don't know. And I surrendered and I took the ambulance across the street. And what I had to learn was the most important lesson in my life. The burnout was catching up, it was wearing down my body. I wasn't eating healthy. And I had the left side of my face was frozen. It was called Bell's palsy, which was close to a stroke.
Wow.
And when I was diagnosed and went to my naturopath, because immediately the next 24 hours I was with my friend and going off to a naturopath because I believe in holistic healing, um, it was identified that I was very close to having a stroke or a heart attack if I did not take care of myself. So, burnout, the physical body will let you know that you've ignored it for too long. So imagine from 24 was when I started my business to about 38 was when this happened. It's pretty much what about 15 years timeline.
Hmm.
So if I ignore me, ignore me, ignore me, ignore me, over time consistently, the body will tell you you've ignored it. If I refuse to take water in my day and I don't feed myself throughout the day and I eat late at night, oh my gosh, I used to do all these things. Go through drive-throughs and eat garbage food. Um, the body is just going to be so annoyed at me. Like it was just done with me. And I had to appreciate, I have the term life is a special event because I had to reflect the same way I took care of my clients. Catering is an essential part of an event. So is it in your life. It's not it's food is one of the highest priorities to feed the vessel. If we rush through our food, recently one of my holistic leaders said to me, "Carol, when you eat, please don't discuss anything that is negative or of a disease while you eat, because what you eat, your words while you're eating." I was like, whoa, that was deep. Do you see how like the holistic side of it is the future we're living into because we made the mistake. I made the mistakes, but my job is now to pass on my lessons and say, build a stronger leadership. I can only tell you so much, but until you're in the experience of it, that's how you'll know. But pay attention to the warning signs. If you start falling, if you start tripping, if you're not sleeping properly, these are part of a whole part of being a human being. Sleep is an asset.
Definitely. And, you know, I think that it's so overlooked, like, especially sleep for college students. It's such a, a well-known fact that we don't focus on sleep too much. And I am a victim of this, but very well said. And I think it's important to make sure that we avoid it before it actually happens. And, I was actually talking about this in a previous episode with one of my guests, Ben Moore, and he was saying that he personally went through burnout and it was one of the worst things for not only his personal well-being, but also his growth both career wise and personal. So I'm very glad we touched on that. And now I want to go more back into, the idea of holistic leadership in the three domains that we were discussing. Um, you know, one big thing that I hear from students a lot is that, great, I have these three domains. I know what I need to do in order to lead the right way. I just don't have the time. I just have so much on my plate that I have no idea how to balance it all. And, my well-being with my ability to collaborate with others and also lead my team. What is the first few steps that you recommend these students take in order to really manage their plate in the right way?
I'm going to say the four favorite distinctions. So I did develop a deck of cards with like key life distinctions that were my favorite ones that altered my life. So first of all, a distinction is when it becomes, like I said, about self-awareness. So what are the key distinctions that will set you up for success? Is the first one is choice. So choice, you can choose to suffer or you can choose to actually be the experience you choose. So suffering is a choice. And recently I worked with a young leader who realized that she was actually creating her own mental chaos by adding, I want to learn more studies, I want to learn more books, I will give me more learning. Learning can be an addiction. Okay, I want 6 books, I want to lose this, and you never complete anything. So that now it sits in your unconscious self that you have things that are incomplete everywhere in your life. But you chose that, and you get addicted to the familiarity of mental chaos, which you may not even notice. It's so subtle. So choose your future. Number one for the entrepreneurs, the biggest thing about leadership is we are the creators of the future now. We are creating it. So, first of all, create it in a way that why did you start your business? Always go back to that question. Did I create it to make money? Did I create it for freedom? Did I create it for lifestyle? Did I create it to be with my family? And that changes over decades as well. So, remember the choice of business. Remember, I think the word myth of what people tell you ain't necessarily true. Myths have been around for a long time. Work hard, work harder, work many hours, you'll turn out results. Who made that myth up? But it stays with entrepreneurs because we are definitely the ones shaping the future. I'm so excited about college and university students. After the pandemic, there was more entrepreneurship evolving than ever before with social media, more entrepreneurship than ever before with YouTube, more resources to tell you how to grow and build that you don't even have to hire a coach, but definitely have a team around you that can mentor you and can guide you through certain curves because they're tough. They're tough. So really, it really gives you strength. So first distinction, choice. Second one, language. Learn the art of language. As a leader, we listen for and reliably deliver that which makes a real difference, what people care about, because we're listening. We listen to the client's needs. We listen for how fast they want results. We're listening for the problem that we can solve. And the owners or the clients will tell us what they're dealing with as a problem. So our listening makes a difference. And our listening, not just with the clients, our biggest listening is with ourselves because guess who your biggest competitor is as an entrepreneur?
Is it yourself?
It's yourself.
Yeah.
You're like competing against you, going, you should do more. You should go over there. You should do that. And all day long, it's an instant chatter within your mind. So your mindset is mastering that chatter between the duality of you and you. You're like, all right, you, come on now. We got some things. I'm focused to talk to Zaki right now. Like, do not talk about dinner right now. Like, it's going all day, 24/7. So master the mind. It's noise. Okay. Um, the third one, so I said choice, language. So your speaking being is about how we make requests of others. So master your language and speaking. The third one is tremendous. It's all about relationships. So how do you build your relationships? Well, relationships are the economic platform for our future. So nurturing them and actually connecting with them regularly. So a client is not just a client is a relationship. I have clients inviting me to their birthday parties. I have clients inviting me to their conferences to participate with them. I have clients who, when they're dealing with legacy leaders, so they're dealing with some health and well being in their families, and I'm there to jump in when they need that support. So nurture relationships. They will come, they will go, but they can still come and go, and they're still part of your community of relationships. The fourth one, if there's no order for any of these, but it's master yourself, it's integrity. And I think that the students, I know I was never taught integrity until I went into my leadership. Like I was taught integrity. And the very first thing is manage your time integrity. Are you showing up where you said you'd show up? Are you allowing enough time in between your meetings to get to where you need to go? I used to run from one meeting to the next meeting to the next meeting. I'm sorry I'm a little bit late. I'm sorry I'm late. I'm late for my family occasions. I'm late for my clients. I'm running. Oh dear, there's traffic. There's traffic in the city. So managing your time responsibly is key to integrity, but also managing your word in the world. We make many, many promises in a day. A promise as simple as I'll be back in a sec, and somebody shows up half an hour later is a broken promise. So integrity is the foundation in which a business is built on. If integrity is out, the business will not succeed. So let me give an example. If a client makes an agreement with me for their services and I'm here to fulfill on it, then I'm here to show up every week on that appointment. I'm here to show up as a business leader to listen to the client and reliably deliver their needs, like listen to them greater than themselves, because usually they're stuck with themselves. Remember, the competitor is you, but when you have a listener who can actually elevate your own listening inside of yourself, I'm showing up powerfully week over week. So consistency is also key. But at each one of these distinctions, we could probably do a whole talk, an hour talk on them. But it's important for the students to really, if I would go back, we say if we could look in time and I make the choices, uh, I chose my business. Like I chose my business over my friendships. I said, I'm focusing on my business. But later on, I started to say, well, wait a minute, I've got to choose my family. I have two young sons. And so things are always moving. There's no set way integrity is in or out, but notice your promises to people. Keep your promises to people. If you're not keeping the promise, communicate with them. I think the one thing that I see having working with current students is that communication is always being a learned lesson. In fact, I wish the schools could put more in about how to, not communication from like a PR perspective, communication from a listening to yourself, communication to listening to others, how to run and lead meetings effectively and build on a series of communications. Like the communication course leader always said to me, Carol, listen to the conversation, like when you and I are talking. Don't go back three times. Keep building on that communication because that's where we're going to have a future. And little tiny bits at a time will make a big difference. Little bit consistently over time. You learning, me sharing with you. You're going to share now with some friends. Some other people are going to learn and hear from us. Great. We've now elevated a few more people, not hundreds, a few more people in life that they get this.
I love that. A little bit goes a long way, especially with communicating a lesson or a message. And I actually want to build off of that, communication and also, you mentioned the idea of nurturing relationships. You know, I wanted to hear from you, what does it actually mean to connect with someone and build a relationship? Because in this day and age, especially for student entrepreneurs and students in general for that matter, you know, connecting can range from connecting with someone on a very deep level, getting to know the person as a client or business partner, all the way to just connecting with them on LinkedIn. So there's such a big range of what connecting really means. And going off of that, additionally, how do you really connect with someone as a leader?
Well, be authentic. Just I'm looking at some examples that I can give you. So we have a pathway called the evolution of a customer. I mean, that's for a business to really understand how we go from a stranger to a prospect to somebody who actually is our first time customer, and we nurture that flow. Um, but what I'm thinking about is just recently some of the social medias and how I connect with people. So I think one of my favorite stories is I was mentoring quite a number of students in the summertime, and I was running a special event mentorship training camp, and they were working on all my social media, and they were having so much fun. So just a leadership is allowing the learning to happen as it is, even when it doesn't look all the way I would do it. And they were having so much fun, this group in the summer, that it caught the attention of a leader in the Philippines. And they messaged, I think they messaged my team members first and said, we'd like to meet Carol. I want to talk to her about bringing that program into the Philippines. So through that, it was a social media visualization that created an interest, that created somebody sending a DM message, that created a conversation. In conversations, we do have a flow. It's called, and I'm trained with it, what's called the technology for accomplishment. Is the first stage is being related to. the person, understand, oh, you're an entrepreneur. When did you start your business? You started out at the same time as me. You were 24. Oh my gosh, how many years you've been in business? 20 years. Okay, great. We have something now in common. Just like you would meet a friend, right? A community, we would have something in common. We're both entrepreneurs, we're both mothers, we're both leading, and we're both excited about um, making a difference for the next generation. So we were running a training and development session on event management at the time. So that relationship started out from a post, remember, and I was introduced. Then I delivered the training. Then I kept the relationship ongoing. Then my client from the Philippines came to Canada as a friend, stayed in my home, met my friends, met my fellow friends, enjoyed dinners with my friends, and was part of my livelihood in my community. Then, continues to be a part of my future. I'm thinking we're now at 15 years later. We're still connected ongoingly, very successful entrepreneur, 30 years herself, Annalisa. And we're both committed to making a difference in multiple platforms for the next generation because we both did the same thing. Started early. Here's where we're at now. How can we leave it better? And I know that Annalise is working on holistic as well through self mastery. She studied it during the pandemic. She's opened up her own business. She's a serial entrepreneur, opening multiple businesses and making sure entrepreneurs have what they need and creating opportunities for people to work as well. So all of that nurturing is over time. I may not talk to somebody for a whole year, but I'm created such a strong foundation that at any point in time, I'm cheering them on their social media. I'm connecting maybe once a year to say, hey, how's your family doing? Hey, congratulations on all your success. I'm so excited for you. Honestly, the things that we used to do when we were, the little things today. I just received a card very small, like even like a postcard size card, um, in the mail yesterday, and I'm like, nobody sends mail anymore. Who is this from? And it's like a bronze envelope with handwritten writing with my name with little dots around it. I'm like, who is this from? Do you know that this little card said, thank you so much for spending time with me on Zooms with my colleague in the US. I really appreciate your time and I'm looking forward to building this relationship as I grow. And she wanted to acknowledge that I had done a proposal, but she hadn't gone ahead with it. She wanted to thank me by handwriting a letter.
Wow.
And and that's how I reacted. I was like, wow, that's something. We have all these emails, we have little social medias and voicemails now. And I was like, wait a minute, that's old school. That really made a difference.
Mm-hmm.
So the natural, authentic appreciation and acknowledgement. So I acknowledge my peers. I want to celebrate their wins and successes.
Yeah, and
I want to acknowledge my peers when they're growing a family and have a family. I want to be there for my peers and my community of business owners and clients and friends when they're dealing with a really tough time.
that's fantastic. So it's more than just
I want to let them know that I'm still here. I hear them.
fantastic. It's more than just, from what I'm hearing, just telling people what to do and micromanaging them. It's more of actually, you know, not only being a leader higher up, but being able to kind of put yourself down a little bit to really see eye to eye with them. Is that correct?
I'm going to just phrase the word put myself down. There is no down or up or down. We're all
Mm,
together. Um, and I think the interpretation of leadership is the old school management is gone. I'm going to actually request that the students take on a new framework of leadership. It is no longer about a manager telling me what to do. That is old school management.
interesting.
The new leadership that we're stepping into is about managing people's promises, not people. We don't manage people. We manage people's promises. So on a weekly basis, I meet with my team and I ask them, please put your promises in existence immediately within 5 minutes when you make a promise, because it needs to go into our tracking system. When we come to the meeting on Friday and we complete the week, we want to be able to Have you not have it in your mind, consciously or unconsciously, that you had all these things to do and you didn't complete them? We have a distinction also called being complete, being incomplete.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we think we can do so much more in a week. But we really, like I said, those small, consistent actions. Maybe we did 2 or 3 posts. Maybe we did an article. But now, over 12 or 13 weeks in a quarter, we can start to see our accomplishments. We can manage our promises. We have an actual tab in our promises that says complete, incomplete, or ongoing, or in progress. So it's like, where is it at? The purpose of that is, from a management standpoint, is one is that my team doesn't go home for the weekend thinking about all the things they did or didn't do, because they will discipline themselves, no problem. They'll be like, oh my god, I didn't get that done, oh shit. And they're talking to themselves all weekend, oh, didn't post the article, didn't do that. It's going running unconsciously all the time. So again, when you become consciously aware of yourself, you can stop the noise. Just look, it's incomplete. Yes, I've disappointed people in my life. Yes, I actually, just before this, I said to my client, I can call you for 15 minutes. And I'm like, no, I can't. Like, I had a proposal coming in, a client wanting to talk, getting ready for you, completing my team. And I was like, wait a second, can't do all this in 1 hour. No, no, I've got to communicate back to them, say, I'll talk to you after 4. I'll get back to you. I'll stay on this line. So things are always moving as a leader. My integrity is to be in communication. So I'm not going to leave that client hanging that I said I'd call in 15 minutes an hour ago. No, I'm going to let her know, look, I made a mistake. I'll call you after, because I was trying to squeeze so much in 1 hour,
Mm-hmm. Very
which
well
is
said.
what we try to do, isn't it? And we're like, oh, I'm going to just finish one more thing, right?
Exactly, exactly. So
Yeah.
integrity is number one. Integrity is that important.
And then relationships, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And I wanted to kind of scope into the idea that you mentioned about leadership not really being, levels, not that you're above someone, because I myself had the predisposition that it was. And, not only for my personal curiosity, but also for all our listeners, I wanted to hear, your insight as to how do you manage a level of leadership where you're on the same level, but you're also able to have those leadership attributes.
Oh, okay, so I'm going to tie my two favorite words together, leadership and lifestyle, because I actually am the reflection of what I would like to see my team be in their lives. So there is no level. So when I hire people to work with me, I say work with me, not for me. That's number one. Number two is listening for what they came to learn and grow with. Now, sometimes they may say it straight up, but they may not. So I have to just listen to what they're saying, what they're not saying. So again, it comes back to communication. Everything for me in leadership comes inside of communication. There's an important part in communication. I think you sent me this over in some of your questions, which is about intention and outcomes. Most of us can go into meetings, unprepared, especially when it becomes a consistent weekly meeting and then you start to think it's familiar. The moment you think it's familiar, it's not new. So it's our leadership to actually identify that with our teams and say, is this starting to be familiar with you? Even over 90 days and you're halfway through the quarter and you're like, they start to think they know how it's all going to turn out. And I'm like, no, you don't, because every day is new. The presence which we come into, and here's where conscious leadership comes into, the presence of leadership is in the moment. If you think the prediction of last week's events are scoring up for this week, it's not going to happen the same. You actually cut off possibility by doing that. So my leadership is all about communication and making sure that I communicate with myself first to create, my intentions and outcomes with the team and teamwork every quarter. In fact, we start our week off with our um, who we are as a team, as a possibility. Like we're a possibility of being happiness, joy, and unity this quarter. So we're all related. It is our relatedness quarter. And then we have an intention of like who we are as a team and how we're communicating as a team and are we related as a team? Because you will still come in as a team member operating as an individual. But the difference when you come into a team and now you're operating as an accountability is much different. I had one boss tell me when I was 23, when the only job I got hired at for 4 years, he said, Carol, you're replaceable. And I didn't like him. I was a brat already. I was like, what do you mean? I'm never replaceable. There's only one of me. I was a brat at 24. And Emil Riak, and he said, but it's not me being replaced. It's the job. It's the accountability. That's all it is. It's not me. No job is me. So and leadership and lifestyle, that's why I said ties this holistic approach. It's like you want to be a great leader of teams and have you taking care of yourself the same way you want to take care of your team. You want to give the team the opportunity to make sure they're taking care of themselves and have their, I'm sure you've seen some of the offices like LinkedIn headquarters I've been to, um, where they have like water available and snacks available, and they have like they can skateboard in the hallways, and it's really cool. Like because they want people to play. Like work was supposed to be play. In North America, honestly, it is North America. I'm going to say this. We have been so conditioned to work so hard, and we've been conditioned a very linear life that we come out of school, we're supposed to work and work and work and work and work and work until we retire. That's linear. Who said that? Again, it's a myth. Come out of school, you have greater opportunity than ever before. And I'm so impressed by some of the young leaders that are causing massive results, but they are getting burnt out. I know that. I absolutely know that. Causing massive results in their life. And I think that, I'm going to just give you a little bit of a spectrum on the other end of the results. So you cause massive results. You get all the things you want. You buy your house, you get the car, you get the this, you get the girl, you get the husband, you get the family, everything. You get it all. Fast forward 40 years. I've actually been a witness. This was the one that opened up my eyes. What does it look like when you're now 80 years old? Oh, here we go. We come over to your house. We pull up a big dump outside your house and we dump everything in the bin. We throw it all in the garbage or we sell it all away because it's just stuff. But what are you left with? When you're rid of all the stuff, the cars, the this, that, what are you left with? It's the people. It's the impact that you left on people's lives. It's how you made people feel during their life. When somebody is unmistakably present with me and being of service to me, and I'm like, whoa, this person's really present to what I need. It is an unbelievable experience to receive that kind of presence. So that's my invitation for the students is to notice anytime you think something's a pattern or you think you figured it out, don't, because it's never happened before. Today, this moment, this call has never ever happened before. The consciousness in our conversation, it's being driven by you and I connecting, and this is our connection that could open up doors for the next 30 years. I'll see you when I'm 80. See you. I'll be like, you're bringing the garbage and don't.
That's gonna be when part two of this episode happens.
Oh gosh, I'm not that long. But can you imagine like dumping all your stuff in a bin? I'm like, is that what it looks like? All your stuff is just stuff.
Right. Yeah.
So I know students are simplifying life today too. I can hear that a lot. Like, some of the lifestyles are there. You can go two ways with it. You can go for the fame and the glory, and you're trying to feed your ego
Mm-hmm.
and show people, look at me, I'm cool. But actually, if you actually study the most successful entrepreneurs, they're very quiet and reserved. They don't need to talk about it. It's just let it unfold.
Do you think that's a trait that makes an entrepreneur successful?
Hmm. I'm not saying it makes you successful, but the less you speak,
And the more you listen, right?
yeah, be the action on the court. Be on the court like a good basketball player. Be on the court, play the game. The game is never the same, right? A basketball game. So then you would review the game and you look at, what worked, what didn't work, and you'd improve your performance with the coach for the next game. So that's one of the other things that I would suggest for any student entrepreneur. And it's been one of my it's what the source behind why I do what I do now is have a mentor. Have the people who've been through something similar who got your back. And you may have to go through several. You may have to go through different phases of mentors. You may want a mentor on your business. You may want a mentor on your health. You may want a mentor on your food, how to work out, how do I feed myself? Like I just had meal prep done for my whole week so I can make sure that I can do all the things this week and take good care of myself.
Mm-hmm. How do you recommend that students go about, finding a mentor that's right for them?
I think the first thing about mentors is not to just say, "Hey, I want you to mentor me." So you have to do due diligence, do your research, find out about the person, like find the person that they're like, "Oh, I really like so and so." Trying to think what my mentors are, um, and research what it is you like about them so you're now related to them in a way that you're like, yeah, I really see that you're doing this well and I really see you have success. I don't know what's behind all of that, but I'd like to learn more. So be curious in your communication with them, not like, hey, I want you to be my mentor. I've had people say, hey, I want you to be my mentor, and I'm like, no, because if I'm going to give you my most valuable asset, which is my time, I need to actually qualify you that you're willing to be coachable and willing to take the actions, because a mentor knows how much to give you. We're like the Karate Kid. I don't know if you know that, the Karate Kid, but like the X wax on, wax off.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he will keep telling you the same thing over and over, and you're like so frustrated. You're like, I don't want to do that anymore. He keeps telling me to do the same thing, and you're like, keep going.
Mm-hmm.
You went from 6 to 100. Okay, good. Now we're getting somewhere. But you don't know why, but the mentor knows why. We're not going to move you forward to the next level until you get that level. Makes no sense. So if you're going to play with the high rollers, you need to make sure you definitely got your integrity in place, your communication in place, so you're mindful of your words when you're speaking, and you actually can build a trusted relationships. You can be reliable and show up honestly and fulfill on the actions weekly. Don't show up and expect someone to talk to you and tell you what to do. No way. You're going to do the work, and it is going to be hard work.
Very well said. And from what it sounds like these three domains are just showing up in every single aspect of career development, whether you're a startup founder in college, all the way to whether you're working in the corporate scene. So that sounds very, this is some really profound stuff. And like you mentioned, there's a discrepancy because in North America, everything is almost superficial in a way. Everyone's just doing linear work, as you mentioned. So, as a leader, and this is more specific to student founders, but in general, leaders, how do you build a company culture where you can cultivate a focus on these three domains and, in general, holistic leadership and working together with well being as the main focus?
Try to got to keep this one short. Okay, company culture. It is a choice of how to shape the people through the choice of the culture values. It's all about the people. It always is. There's a good coach I work with. It's about the people and the business systems. So I'm all about the people system. So I actually had a company called that at one point. I'm all about the people system, that we develop our habits. Um, so inside of a business, I think I'm looking at it from the lessons I've learned. If somebody's starting a business, I often say, don't start it with a website and cards and everything. Just start it with 100 conversations. So, and that goes for the people you want to have working in your company. Ask them, continue. It's not one way. It's an infinity. We actually have an infinity symbol. It's everything is going to be two ways in the company. Listen to the people. Listen to their suggestions. Empower them and be compassionate, that especially as an owner, we're working at light speed and they're working at probably like I can't a tenth of the speed. Like we're like ninja moving through everything, and they're like, I think for today's agenda we should do, and I'm like, okay, okay, we're gonna get through it. And then they talk for like 10 minutes. You're like, okay, that could have been 1 minute. So there's a lot of compassion in our companies as we build them. I think structure. If I look at all my businesses from my life, is building a company with structures for fulfillment. So have systems, have habits, and then all leadership is based on us creating the quarterly outcomes and annual outcomes. So when we're just doing our Q2 projections, we create the results on the scoreboard that we want for the business. So I say we will have, a growth of 10 new clients over the next 12 weeks. I don't have to worry about how, But then I look at what are the methodologies, what are the actions, and what are the themes of all the social media that we're going to post. It's going to be all about team mastery this quarter and team mastery in life and team. So I'm always reflecting as an owner what's going on in my life to my teams authentically, getting their feedback, working and nurturing the training and development with them, and then choosing people that I, definitely want to work with on a long-term basis because I see their growth. They're coachable, their willingness to learn and everything. So company has many, frameworks of structure. But if I look at from what I did when I was in my 20s and 30s, I was following the business plan, everything. Now I have a technology for accomplishment. I have a structure. I have systems in place, and I'm also upgrading. So we just went on the platform school. We have a community now. So all of our systems are being documented on our community. We have a life and business leadership community. So we make sure that as we grow and as a company and we develop our processes and systems, we're giving them to you. You do not have to build them again. So that makes it easier for the next generation, right? So that's I've gone a few different directions with that answer. I knew it was going to be like I'm like, how do I say this in short? I could do a whole framework. We could get a whiteboard out,
Right. No,
right?
that's fantastic. That's fantastic. And this just got me thinking that leadership, hence the title, is more than just a simple, more than just a title. It's something way more deep and nuanced and profound. And that kind of yields the question, that many student founders may ask, or students in college, because leadership goes beyond just entrepreneurship. You know, why is leadership this important that I should put this time, right? Why shouldn't I just, tell people what to do and get the job done? What would be your answer to something like that?
Okay, you know why I laugh? Because what's it like when our mom tells us what to do?
It's it's not the best experience.
Okay, so you got your answer on leadership right there.
Hmm.
You cannot give people advice. You cannot give it. Unsolicited advice does not work. Empowerment comes from curiosity in the way you shape your communication and enroll a person into what's possible out of their actions. So everything for me is about communication. You're going to enroll the team member what's possible and what's possible if they try something in a new way. What's possible if I give you a new view of that? Because, you might see this cup and tell me there's a handle on it. You see a handle?
Oh, not right now.
I'm going to convince you there's a handle on this cup because I know I see the handle. But you're like, no, there's no handle.
Right.
And that's all it is. It's just we have different points of views. So yeah, no, for leadership and the word ship, you wouldn't run a ship on your own, would you? Um, yeah, leadership today, just the biggest thing I want people to take away is number one is to, communicate with your team in a way that they're heard, in a way that they're gotten, and then repeat it to them because now you actually can let the person go through their own growth. Transformation is different than what you learned in school. School, you study, take some tests, you learn, and you get marks. That is the education process. Transformational leadership is when you actually empower the person to go ahead and make the mistakes over and over and over. They might show up late 10 times. The 11th time they show up on time because I've asked them to restore integrity 10 times. Sometimes it's 40 times, just in case you want to know. Whoa. But, scheduling events in your calendar. Did you invite me to a meeting? Did you schedule in my calendar? Did and they're like, well, no, I just knew the meeting's at 4 o'clock on Thursday. And I'm like, well, it makes a difference if it's in the calendar because now it's in existence. So I'm not being sarcastic with them, but I'm like, hey, what do you think would work if I didn't show up to that meeting and I missed it because it wasn't in my calendar? What would you suggest you do in the future? So they solve the problem. The more people are empowered to solve, and there's leadership, but I'm going to add the word self leadership. So this is what right now after Q1, I was saying to some of the education faculties and saying, please teach the students self leadership because in school, you're in your seat and the teacher is leading you. That's the beginning of you learning a habit for 20 plus years. So when the students leave school and I show up on a Zoom and I'm mentoring them, and I'm like, why are they all waiting for me to say everything? Like I'm like, why are you not asking me questions? Like, and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not a teacher, guys. I'm not. Like, I'm not going to sit up here and do a lesson for you. You're actually causing me to contribute to you. I'll give you some framework, but the the shift you have to take on after school is to actually be confident within yourself, to be curious, to ask the questions that will cause a future that you would like to see happen. Otherwise, leaders and even old school leaders will they'll hijack the entire meeting. They'll hijack your time. They'll tell you what to do because they're old school. And then you're losing yourself for the next 30 years. And about 40, 45, you're like, I lost myself. Where'd it go? I'm following everybody else's dreams. I'm doing all the things for other people. I thought I was doing that right. I'll do one more project volunteer. I'll do one more thing to look good and get an award. I'll do one more thing to sit on the board. And you're like, no, I don't sit on any boards anymore. I don't chase any awards. I don't need an award to be like, hey, Carol, you're great. I just do great work because I know that I can impact one life at a time. And I know when I impact one life, that one life can now go and impact 10,000 lives as a leader. Like they will go out with the training that I invested 10 years in and go and actually empower a culture, empower a community, empower people to work with them. They will have successful business because there's constantly all like you and I are just talking about this hour. As I said, there's many domains. We have 12 different accountabilities as an owner. And then we have all that responsibility and all our teams. Yeah, it's a big job. So why is only 5% of people entrepreneurs in the world? Because it's a big job.
Hmm.
But it's a cool world.
Hmm. It
Kudos to you
is.
for starting it and playing it.
No, it definitely
Anybody who does
is. It
what
definitely
was your
is.
business that you did?
We were doing fintech business for banking, so it was a lot to build because you have all the institutional stuff you had to work with. But it was a lot of fun, like you said. It was really cool. But that's fantastic. And you mentioned this a few times already throughout this episode, but I want to focus on the idea of how educational institutions take on the idea of leadership. Like you mentioned, there's a huge discrepancy when students graduate out of college, for example, going into the real world. Their idea of leadership or how to work with someone who is their leader, it's very different because they're used to working with teachers or, being the subordinate, being in a place where there are those levels, right? How do you recommend that a student is able to change that thinking and work in a more healthy leadership ecosystem before they actually graduate?
So a couple of things. I was just thinking about how we met was through a leader, through Vernon with Worldwide Apprentice, and he's as committed as I am to making sure the next generation gets that. So the first thing is get inside a community. So inside Apprentice Worldwide, you can get access to resources. You can get access to mentors. You can, be inside a community while you're in school and meet these people. Please do not think we're like up here and you're here. Like it's not that. We're actually more committed, most of us, to when a student calls to say, "Hey, no, I'm available." Like, we're vetted out because we're really ready and committed to make a difference for students anywhere in the globe when Hernan calls. Um, so get connected with people who are like-minded in a community. Why? Because when you finish school, you will want to be a part of a community. It's actually very important to your social health, and the community gives you strength. By showing up in a community, let's say we're showing up on a Zoom. Again, don't be the observer. Don't just observe the whole meeting. If you feel your heart racing and you have a question, speak up. Of course it's nerve wracking. Even it is for me because I don't want to look stupid in front of all these people, 400 people on a Zoom. I'm like, I don't want to ask a question. But I started really being my voice, like stepping out and being really nervous. Like I would feel my heart beating while I'm asking a question when there's 400 people on the Zoom. I'm like, whoa. Oh, I'm like, okay, I can do this. Just do it. Just say yes. So I keep hitting that, raising my hand, saying yes so that they'll call me up, even as a mature entrepreneur. But I'm just saying for the students, practice being involved in businesses. There's so many meetups, there's so many communities you can join. Don't go overboard. Don't do that. I'm not suggesting that. But find some group that you really like and you feel good in, and then have your voice be heard. So it could be a hobby. I have one of my students who likes card artistry. Could be your hobby. Practice it with your hobby. Get used to that way. But get used to being outside of the school community. It's a very strong community. It's like I'm telling you, when you leave school, there's nothing ever quite like school. It's you actually realize how cool school was. You're like, I want to go back. It was easier there. And then you're trying to find your like-minded entrepreneurs and your like-minded peers. You're like, so where do I belong? Right? You're finding yourself going, where do I belong?
Right.
I find my special event peers. I find my entrepreneurs. I find my mothers. I find, mentorship. I found mentorship meeting Hernan through Clubhouse, like people who mentor people. I love it. Right?
100%. 100%. And it's all about, like you mentioned, just finding your group, finding your people to collaborate with. That's fantastic. And so, kind of wrapping things up, final takeaways, final piece of advice and insight, you know, what's, considering everything that we've talked about here today, what's your advice for someone who wants to grow as a leader but isn't really sure where to start? And not just a leader, but the exact type of leader that we've been talking about.
Okay, you already are a leader in life because it is your life. You only have one life to live. So the first thing is understand yourself and understand if you're a leader of your life, you are at the source of all your choices for your life. So the choices that you make between now and like the next decade, you may not think it's no big deal, but they are. You know, my first business was all in parties. So think about my lifestyle. It was all special events, late nights, you know, um, and so I look at that and it's like if I'm gonna have the late nights, there's no drinking. I'm working. It's a choice. I'm not hanging out. So my habits, so the next thing would be habits. What are my habits that can support the structure of the game that I'm playing? Again, everybody has different habits that they choose. I know entrepreneurs that are up at 4 a.m. in the morning, 6 a.m. in the morning, and I usually get up around 7:30, 8, and even 8 and 9 because I let my internal clock wake me up. I don't have an alarm clock. I don't want to ever put an alarm clock in my bedroom.
Wow.
I want to be able to appreciate my day and understand myself and yourself when you go through your day. Put your health first. Do the workout in the morning, even if it's 15 minutes. I remember so many people telling me about health, and I had various different health coaches all throughout my life. But now, over 50, I really understand that it's the number one thing in their day to put structure. It's got to be there because it's going to impact everything else. It's going to actually give you the performance and well-being strength that you need to manage everything else. And get out in nature. So please, we're all on computers. Get out in nature. Um, Habits shape your future. There's like Atomic Habits. So many great books about that. Wade Dyer is definitely about intention. Um, the third place would be if you want a future now, is to design your lifestyle. Like really map it out. You would map out engineering. You would map out a business plan. What does your life look like? I don't care if it's for 5 years, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Just choose 1 year if you can't even, but map it out. Like I have a theme every single year because my authentic self expression is life is a special event. I actually have a theme for my whole year. And then I watch how my life works around that. So my theme this year is called it's all about the mountains. I was going to say my second slide is divine revolution, but it's all about the mountains because I'm actually reaching such a high level of consciousness. The closest place I want to be is to heaven with the mountains because as you climb and your oxygen gets lower, you need to be very clear about what you're doing and have that support team around you. So, theme your year, have some fun with life, definitely. And then have consistency. So, we may not think we're making progress, but if you show up, 90% of it is showing up every single day with that 10 minutes of exercise, 10 minutes of meditation, maybe 10 minutes of being with your friends, calling in one friend a day. Just develop the habits that make your life beautiful. Enjoy the beauty of life. It's not all about work. Life is the biggest game you'll ever invest in. You're in fintech, like invest in yourself. It's your richness is you. You play rich with you, everything else will work. Don't follow the money, follow the richness in you. Money will come to you. You are this rich. You are very rich. And when you know how to leverage the richness in your consciousness, and have your body and mind and spirit aligned, you are fully connected, that I could sit here and literally think about my future and speak, and it shows up at my front door.
That's absolutely fantastic. And the idea of investing in yourself, whenever people hear that, it's always, oh, build your technical skills, build your experience. But it's more than that. It's about building the richness of yourself, like you mentioned, not only as a leader, but just as a human being.
Yeah. Spiritual consciousness is a whole path that I think is not will never be in the school systems. Maybe it'll be in corporations. That's one of my missions, actually. Maybe it'll just be in a place that people can understand that about life is about love. Love yourself, because that's, I said, you're your competitor, so you're going to mess up. So you better love yourself when you mess up. Oh boy. My communication course leader, when I called him to apologize for a big mistake I did, really stupid one, he said, Carol, how long are you holding on to this mistake with you? I said, 3 years. He goes, are you going to give it up now? I said, yeah, I'm ready now, because I was making you wrong for 3 years.
Wow. Wow.
So yeah, love yourself, but more importantly than love yourself in spirituality is light yourself up. So how do you light yourself up? Many different cultures know through their own ancient teachings how to light yourself up. So you want to learn the ancient teachings. They're very true, and they're not in the schools.
Hmm.
The ancient teachings are a true gift. They've been around, and they've been. It's like a society of its own. And there's so much in those that are so rich. You're like, what is this going on?
That's fantastic. And kind of touching on that, actually, I heard something about an ancient teaching that I'm kind of trying to incorporate in my own life now that you mentioned it. I wanted to share it with some listeners as well. There's an ancient Japanese teaching called the Misogi, and it's the idea that you do something one day of the year that's so profound that it changes the other 364 days of the year, and also the way you think about yourself. So that's just one little shameless plug, a really cool, application that we just mentioned. But yeah, and so, finally wrapping things up, where can listeners follow your work and learn more about what you do?
So I think a couple of things I would say, like through the work I do, we have a website called Life is a Special Event .ca, and that's where I do the life success and mentorship. And they can join teams. I do mentor students. They work actually directly with my clients through many different formats, through business leadership, through digital marketing, through events. But they get the leadership training with that. So that's one way. The other way they can find us is just email us, info@lifeisaspecialevent.ca. I'm on WhatsApp as well. I'm on Telegram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. So all of the platforms, just find me on one. But the most important thing is take an action. If you watch a podcast or listen all the way through to the end, my suggestion, whether it's to reach out to me or you, is to take one action. Like you just said, like take one action that's you learned something from this podcast because you listened to it. Now go, I'm going to apply that for my next week in my life or in my business. So now you've invested this time to hear us. You've invested the time to create this. You are now on the court taking an action. That's where life will change. Okay.
Fantastic. Well, Carol, thank you so much. In this episode, you've truly taught us that life is a special event and that leadership is far more beautiful than we usually think it to be. So thank you so much once again, and I really appreciate your time.
You're very welcome.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Have a good one. All right, that's all for this week's episode of Dorm Room Ventures. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope this conversation was just as insightful for you as it was for me. And here's the thing, whether you're running a startup, leading a student organization, or just figuring out what leadership means to you, one of the biggest takeaways from my conversation with Carol was this: being a leader doesn't mean being above anyone. In fact, the best leaders are the ones who are right there with their team, on the same level, listening, supporting, and moving forward together. And secondly, relationships matter. Listen, if there's one topic that has remained a common denominator in all our episodes, it's the importance of building a network and nurturing relationships. And for good reason. It's not just about networking for a job or collecting LinkedIn connections. It's about truly building relationships with the people around you. Because the leaders who go the furthest are the ones who understand their team deeply and use that understanding to build trust, alignment, and a shared path to success. That's what real leadership looks like. So, once again, Thank you all so much for tuning in, and until next time, this is Dorm Room Ventures.